Another day, another comic controversy.
I can do this. I'm gonna hide my powers and be a normal man having a normal day. Hang on. Starting now. Oh.
Hello all, this is the One Nerd, and today I want to talk about a little show I just got done watching as of the writing of this script. The latest Adult Swim show, My Adventures with Superman. Originally revealed back in 2021 with a promo image that set the internet on fire for various reasons, My Adventures with Superman was originally set to air on Cartoon Network proper, and next day on HBO Max. But in between then and now, a lot of shakeup happened at Cartoon Network and many other WB and HBO based properties after the merger of WB Discovery, which, while it meant many shows and movies were scrapped and written off without a second thought, it would also mean that other shows would get new opportunities and possibilities. In the case of Superman, it would be moved to the Adult Swim block, and recently premiered with a two-part episode, Adventures of a Normal Man, replacing Unicorn Warriors Eternal on the time slot, another Cartoon Network show that was moved to Adult Swim. With the lead up to the premiere, we've been getting more and more clips and teaser images and info in regard to the show, and people have been making their thoughts known on it. And like usual, many have been doing so without really seeing the full context. One big example is a recent clip released of Superman getting his iconic suit for the first time, with many drawing comparisons to the transformation sequence of Sailor Moon. Many, I think, assume that this would be the way that Superman would suit up or change into his outfit every single time for the entire season. But even in the clip itself, it was clear that it was just a one-time occurrence for when he first got the suit for the first time. From the start, the show seemed to be on a lot of people's hit list as the first promo image came out that I mentioned earlier, commenting about the look of both Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, as the two look different than they have from previous comic counterparts. And as more production images come out, it only got worse, directed specifically at Lois's look and design. Many would compare her to the look of Luz from the recent Disney Channel show, The Owl House, which is not untrue, but people really seem to be harping on that point a little bit too much in my opinion, with many artists and creators attempting to fix the design and make it look more in line with what they think the show and characters should look like. So before we can actually talk about the show and the premiere in question, we have to address race swapping.
Seriously, what is that guy so scared of?
Maybe he doesn't want you to find out all the secrets and publish them?
I've mentioned previously in other such debates on Twitter and the like, that on principle, I'm against race swapping, any kind. I think it's lazy, uncreative, and only serves to add diversity to a show without actually having to put into the work to write an original character. It's a practice that's happening more and more in recent years, including the weird trend of the erasure of redheads. And of course, it's something that would never be done in reverse. Meaning it's not about creativity or anything of that nature, it's just about meeting quotas. With that said, it's not something I will always openly complain about, because in a lot of cases, it doesn't actually affect the media in question. At most, I'll roll my eyes when the changes occur and is championed in the media, despite it being just a cynical checkbox. Or if it's an example of a character who normally has unnaturally colored skin, who is cast as a person of color, but they don't keep their original skin color in the project, because they want to show off the fact that they made that change in the first place. Like Starfire and Beast Boy in Titans, and Domino in Deadpool 2. And even then, if the overall project is still good, it's something I can get over easily, like in the case of Deadpool 2. Domino looks nothing like any version of the character before, but the movie was still good, and she was used fairly well.
That's a negative, Soul Survivor. Luck is not a superpower. We are so fucked.
No, we most certainly not fucked.
Getting back on point, this of course ties back to Jimmy and Lois, who are both race swap versions of themselves, and Lois specifically has a very different look than the one that she's been given before. I mentioned before, but I don't really care about race swapping anymore. It's a practice that while can be annoying, it's gonna happen, and as long as the show is still good and the characters are written well, I can get over it. And in this case, they very much are. Jimmy Olsen is a young, plucky photographer who on the show is roommates with Clark and has an obsession with the paranormal and aliens.
Oh, have you considered that these robots might have come from beyond the stars?
They came from an army base.
There's only so many places to hide them.
I've already got to leave.
It could be the sewer dinosaurs.
So we follow up,
Mothman!
Meet my source.
Mer people! Mer people!
find the robots,
And get the story.
Then what are we waiting around here for?
This version of Jimmy is much more in line with the previous Jimmy versions than, say, live-action Supergirl show that portrayed Jimmy as a tall, muscular Adonis, which, no, that's not Jimmy. Lois, on the other hand, starts the show as a simple intern at the Daily Planet, who is looking to break her first big story that will get her to the position of full-blown reporter, but is tasked with training the newest interns at the Daily Planet, Jimmy Olsen and Clark Kent. Speaking of, this version of Clark Kent is the most accurate portrayal, but with somewhat of a twist. For example, there seems to be something up with his powers. While he still seems to have the iconic flight and strength, as this is his first time really embracing his powers, since he seems to have found a reason to embrace them and protect the things that he loves, that being Lois herself. But there is a possible power-up that he can tap into in times of great strength. The look of the power reminds me of the Superman Blue form, or that time he had a Super Saiyan-like form, which is totally a thing that happened. While we're only one episode into a 10-episode season, with the second season already being greenlit, there's still a lot up in the air on what to expect from this show. But while there's still a big focus on action and tackling villains of the week, with future villains teased like iconic rogues, Brainiac, Parasite, and even Mr. Mxyzptlk, the main focus of the show seems to be the budding romance between Clark and Lois, which, so far, is pretty cute and pretty wholesome. They clearly both have a crush on each other, so there won't be any kind of will they won't they thing, just enjoying how cute the two are until they eventually get together. Which surely will get help from Jimmy, since he is painfully aware that the two like each other.
You like her.
No, what? I mean, I admire Miss Lane.
Yeah, you do.
As professionals, Jimmy. Professionals.
Do you think Clark's okay?
I mean, he's sick, so he's...
Maybe we can bring him some soup. I mean, what if he has a fever? We could drop off some blankets. Do you think he likes blankets?
You like him.
No! I mean, I like him.
Yeah, you do.
I meant professionally, Jimmy. I don't like him.
And honestly, who could not like this Lois? I know this kind of reveals my bias about the show, but as more and more came out about the look of Lois, I fell more and more in love.
Mr. White, thank you for calling me in today, because I've got one heck of a story for you. Pew pew! No, don't do that to your boss.
She ticks a lot of boxes for me. Tomboy attitude, short stature, casual dress, short hair, it all works. And the fact that her personality is spunky and ambitious without being too full of herself or treating Clark or Jimmy like any sort of lesser really helps. But it's not like I don't have issues with the show. It does have that annoying trend I mentioned before, with characters with unnatural skin being race-swapped, in the form of Livewire, who seems to be a pretty major villain of the show. I will say though, they do seem to team the fact that maybe she is going to go full Livewire later in the series, since her powers in this version seem to be more artificial at this point. And they do show her in a more iconic look for just a second. But my biggest issue is the introduction of Deathstroke, played by, weirdly enough, Chris Parnell, who I'm sure many of you will remember as Jerry from another Adult Swim show, Rick and Morty.
What do you want?
I want off your weird hit list, genius.
You really think you're the smartest person here, don't you? You have no idea what kind of technology you're dealing with.
Many voice actors can use opportunities like this to show their range and give a character that many may be familiar with a new spin. But the issue is that Parnell just sounds like Jerry. He doesn't seem to do much to change his voice, and while the character seems pretty competent and like a younger version of Deathstroke should be, there are still moments where he has his Jerryisms come out, and it's really off-putting. He also seems to be involved with the big bads of the show, so it's clear that this won't be the last time that we see him. But hopefully the other villains introduced will be better with their casting, like Livewire, for example, who I thought did actually a pretty good job. While we have just started, I think the show has already shown itself to understand a lot of aspects of Superman, and the chemistry between Clark and Lois. Which is great to see, since Superman and Lois seem to be one of the few comic couples that few creators are willing to mess with, other than that little time where Superman and Wonder Woman were the hottest power couple. But we'll just call that a happy detour. Certainly better than other superheroes like Spider-Man and Batman, who can't seem to catch a break in the romance department. I, for one, can't wait to see more of this show, and will be ignoring all the critique from those who clearly have no interest in this show or watching it. But I will still be on the lookout to see if the other shoe drops. While I do think this show is getting a bit too much hate, I also think that praise for the show is going a little overboard, probably because of the hate in question. with the show premiering with a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But so far, I'm very impressed and can't wait to see more. If you have any thoughts about the show or your first impressions, leave a comment below. I'm curious to see what everybody thinks about it and what they're excited to see. Until next time, this is The One Nerd, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. See ya.